One crucial difference, setting aside Russia and its historical and potential military adversaries, is the territorial size and, as the saying goes, size matters. The territorial extent of the Russian state, the fact of it frequently being ringed by states pursuing hostile policies, has evolved a certain unique brand of strategic thinking which is often misidentified or even dismissed in the West as siege mentality. The sheer length of the borders, which cannot be covered by fortified lines or high-density troop concentrations, naturally forces Russian military thinkers to embrace both fluidity in their planning and craft battle plans on a scale that is alien even to NATO, whose leaders tend to think in strictly regional terms without considering the larger relationship. The Caucasus 2016 Command and Staff exercise is a reflection of the emphasis on a unified strategy covering the totality of military threats facing Russia. While the exercise's name implies a southern focus, in actuality it involves units in southern, central, and western military districts, with even some northern fleet units being involved, in addition to the ships of the Caspian Sea flotilla. The exercise's geography suggests the exercise was conceived with NATO as a potential adversary, though with the threat's center of gravity residing rather closer to the Black Sea than to the Baltic. The nature of operations rehearsed during the exercise similarly suggests a high-end military threat rather than counterinsurgency operations. The exercise included maneuvers by motorized rifle brigades, opposed river crossings, a naval infantry amphibious assault on the shores of Crimea, a parachute regiment airdrop behind enemy lines, air superiority and tactical air support missions by frontal aviation fighter units, establishing a ground-based air defense missile umbrella over friendly forces, Caliber cruise missiles and Iskander ballistic missile launches, but without the participation of the strategic nuclear component. The exercise also appeared to put an emphasis on rapid long-distance redeployments, both by land and air units. Moreover, for the first time in decades, the exercise included a trial mobilization of the still experimental Territorial Defenses Unit, which are currently being formed as part of the revitalization of Russia's military reserve components. The predictable accusation by NATO was that the exercise was just another Russian exercise in saber rattling, which suggests that its purposes either eluded the alliance's decision makers or they chose not to share their real insights with the public. The scale of the exercise, in terms of the number of personnel engaged in operations, was relatively modest when compared to other exercises in the past few years, at only 12,500 troops. President Vladimir Putin did not visit any part of the exercise either. Kavkaz 2016 is also not related to any deployments concerning Syria or the Russian-Turkey relationship, as its dates and general outline were announced nearly a year ago. The range of operations being practiced suggests that, unlike some of the similar exercises held during preceding years, the exercise did not appear to revolve around a specific political scenario, and it did not include a rehearsal of the nuclear escalation ladder, with nearly no nuclear delivery systems participating in the exercise. Instead, Kavkaz 2016 was intended to serve as a comprehensive test of Russia's troop command and control systems at all levels and for all branches of forces in order to evaluate both the progress and shortcomings in its ability to wage combat operations with land, air, and naval components seamlessly integrated into the overall concept of operation. While the Russian-Syria joint operation in Syria, which likewise integrates all three services, have provided invaluable experience in the conduct of joint operations, the specificity of the situation in Syria means that it is not a comprehensive test of Russia's current military doctrine. The emphasis on command and control systems also explains the relatively low number of troops and weapon systems used in the exercise, sufficient to test the command systems and to model operations by far larger formations. Kavkaz 2016 was also the first large-scale operation test of the Soviets' Constellation Tactical Unit Command and Control System, which, in this instance, was put through its paces by the 2nd Guards Motorized Rifle Division of the 1st Guards Tank Army. While it will no doubt be some time before the lessons of Kavkaz 16 are digested and disseminated, the exercise promises to have a far-reaching impact on the organization, equipment, and doctrine of the Russian armed forces.
One of the key sectors of Russian military modernization is its tank fleet, which still includes many unmodernized T-72B and T-80U tanks. In order to close the tank quality gap with NATO, Russia opted to upgrade the T-72B to the T-72B3 standard, a modernization that yielded a modern tank comparable to the T-90 at a fraction of the cost of buying a new T-90. The T-72B3 tank, which entered service in 2011 at the rate of about 200 a year, and which became widely known thanks to the annual tank biathlon competitions, was intended to be a stopgap measure until the T-14 of the Armata family became operational. According to statements by the Uralvagonzavod, Russian procurement plans entailed the purchase of 2,000 T-14 MBTs. These plans appear to have been modified due to several factors which appeared in the last 2 years. The first was the crisis in Ukraine and the heightened state of conflict with NATO. The crisis raised the need for a truly modern MBT comparable to NATO's tanks to become operational as quickly as possible. While the T-72B3 can be fairly described as a modern tank, it is still inferior in some respects to the latest NATO Leopard 2A6 and M1A2 Abrams tanks. Secondly, the basic T-90 design was also rapidly becoming dated, which reduced its international competitiveness, as evidenced by the success of Ukraine's Zaplot tank in the 2011 competition in Thailand, where it won over the T-90. While the T-90 has enjoyed considerable export success, including major contracts with India and Algeria, it is now facing the prospect of being eclipsed by more recent designs from China and even Ukraine. Third, even though Ukraine proved unable to fulfill the Thailand contract in a timely manner, producing only 5 tanks a year in 2014 and 2015, the Russian leadership has to consider the worst-case scenario of Ukraine ramping up a plot production for domestic use with NATO's assistance. Fourth, Russia's economic crisis, caused mainly by the rapid drop of oil prices, means that the ambitious military modernization plans face the need of being as cost-effective as possible. Fifth, the T-14 is a radical design featuring many revolutionary technologies. It is a technologically risky project featuring many as yet unproven technologies, with the possibility of developmental delays. Since its design is very different from earlier Russian tank designs, its introduction would also require considerable changes to the training doctrine, as tank crews trained to use Russia's current tanks would be ill-prepared to use the T-14. As a result, it would be unlikely that Russia could field a sizable and fully operational T-14 force before 2020 at the earliest. The change to Russian procurement plans induced by these factors became apparent in the summer of 2015, when the Russian MOD announced its T-90 fleet would be modernized to the T-90AM variant. This version of the T-90, known by its export designation of T-90SM, was developed in recent years, apparently in response to the T-90's aging and the emergence of viable Chinese and Ukrainian competitors, and was not intended for adoption by the Russian military. However, the need for a quicker and less expensive alternative that would fill the gap until the T-14 became available compelled the Russian MOD to take a second look at the T-90AM, which has the advantage of using already existing T-90 hulls, is a mature project with few developmental risks, and whose familiar layout means Russian tank crews can readily transition to the new design. At least one T-90AM with the 2A82 125mm tank gun developed for the T-14 is undergoing tests at Nizhny Tagil, and upgraded vehicles could be delivered to Russian units as early as 2016 if the Russian MOD desires it. Therefore, by 2025, Russia's tank fleet is likely to consist of about 1,000 T-72B3 tanks, 400 or so T-90AM, and about 500 T-14s, with their numbers steadily increasing. This force would have both qualitative and numerical superiority over any conceivable combination of Russia's opponents at that time. One of the more visible signs of the technological revolution sweeping the Russian armed forces is the proliferation of battlefield robots being tested for use with the ground forces. The range of programs suggests this is a high priority for the Russian Ministry of Defense, and the existence of such weapon systems is indicative of the importance being placed on implementing the digital revolution in the armed forces to make them capable of waging net-centric warfare relying on small units operating independently without a well-defined front line. The most important robotic system under development for the ground forces is the 6-ton class Uran family of tracked vehicles, which include the Uran 6 minesweeping vehicle and the Uran 9 combat vehicle, whose armament includes a 30mm A-72 automatic cannon, Ataka laser-guided anti-tank missiles, and Igla or Verba short-range anti-aircraft missiles, which collectively allow it to engage all battlefield targets. Russian industry also has smaller vehicles under development, such as the Nerechta and Platformer M systems, whose modular design allows them to be armed with machine guns, automatic grenade launchers, anti-tank guided missiles and RPGs. There is even a miniature, backpack-portable, assault rifle-armed battle robot named Strelok that is capable of climbing stairs, and miniature quadricopter drones armed with grenade and flame launchers. The most ambitious initiatives include a robotic version of the BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle named Uda and the remote control feature built into the Armata family T-14 tanks, which enables individual T-14s to be controlled by other T-14s through the provision of high-volume data links which give complete access to the sensors, weapons and controls of the vehicle being controlled. Instead of relying on satellite communications, which combines long range with vulnerability to jamming and hacking, Russian battlefield robots are controlled using short-range communications of no more than a few kilometers in range. The above-named and other systems are in advanced stages of development and troop testing. There are reports that some of the robotic weapons platforms were deployed for battlefield testing in Syria. While the reports of them spearheading assaults on jihadi positions in Syria while under control by Moscow-based operators are likely exaggerated, battlefield robots are being developed to perform two kinds of missions. The comparatively small size of modern armies means that stable front lines will be rare in future warfare. Even the small in size Donbass theatre of operations has a front line consisting of checkpoints, fortified positions and garrisoned towns, rather than continuous trench lines, which presents both sides with opportunities for infiltration. It means that every unit has to worry about providing its own security and protection, both when occupying permanent positions and on the march. And the robots can provide that capability by performing surveillance and patrolling roads to discover ambushes and roadside mines. The other mission is overcoming prepared defences, including in urban terrain. The lethality of modern weapons means that offensive operations against opposing units in strongpoints or urban terrain are likely to suffer many casualties. While such resistance can be reduced through massed artillery or aerial bombardments, such tactics also cause unacceptable losses to civilian population and damage to infrastructure. Armed battlefield robots can perform armed reconnaissance by compelling defending units to reveal their positions by prematurely opening fire, clearing minefields and obstacles, and destroying individual strongpoints. The development of a modern armour force, deployment of the Ratnik individual soldier suite, and the work on battlefield robots is aimed at ensuring the Russian ground forces can prevail not only in mobile armed warfare, but also in the positional slugfests that have characterized the recent armed conflicts around the world.